Welcome to this small video about the Hollensen model or entry mode decision model. It's one of the internationalization models that I'm presenting here as part of my marketing models series. In this small video, I'll be explaining the core idea of the Hollensen model. It's in essence, an entry mode decision tool. And the choice of entry mode into another international market depends on, according to this model, internal factors, external factors, and transaction factors, which means something within the company, something in the country, and some in terms of the way we work together. But let's dig into the components of the model. It might look a little bit confusing initially, but bear with me, it's not that complicated, and working methodically with it will help you enormously in your decision and your recommendation about how to enter a new international market. If we start from the top, we have the product factors, and the product factors are complexity and differential advantage, meaning how different is it, how complex is it to deal with. If those two factors are high, well, that would argue for what's called a hierarchical entry mode, or a mode where we are more present in the market, as opposed to a mode where we just export and let someone deal with the end consumers. Another of the internal factors are firm size and international experience. This links up to the Upsilon model, or the near market or Hollensen and Wallner model, where you're looking at what's in the head of the people and the company. What experience do they have? If it's a large company with a lot of international experience, well, they're more likely to go towards more advanced entry modes like foreign direct investment, even greenfield investment, where you will buy up a field, build a factory, and service that market. The next section is called the desired mode characteristics. Quite often, it's a little bit of a struggle for students with this part, but think of it this way: it links up to the people again, how they feel about going internationally, how risk averse are they, or how much are they willing to do crazy things abroad. If they're willing to do crazy things abroad, they're not risk adverse at all, and therefore a low score, giving them a high probability of doing more things. How can you identify these things? Well, you could ask the company, but often they say, we don't really know. Then you take a look at the history. What have they done? Take a look at their finances. How much are they investing compared to their equity? How much risk are they taking within their regular business? The next one is control. Again, we need to take a look at what have they done so far. Have they taken and established things themselves? Have they used distributors, agents? How much do they actually want to control themselves? Or are they just subcontractors for larger companies doing no-name products? The last one is flexibility. Again, history. How much flexibility do they want? And it's very, very closely linked to the risk aversion, where you say, I don't want to take so big risks, so therefore I choose an entry mode with high flexibility. I can go in easily and I can go out easily, which means that an export mode is more likely. Then there is a point which is not that used in our general analysis of companies and marketing initiatives. It's the transaction-specific factors. Tacit nature of know-how. How is that? Well, for a non-English speaker, that could be quite difficult to or understand. It is some complex terminology, but it is actually not that complicated. Well, the complication is in the words, but not in the essence of it. Can you explain the things that you do? Well, if it's not that explainable, if it is something that you do, but you haven't really been able to write it down or explain it easily, well, then it's more likely that you will need someone within the company to address the market directly. Say you have a product which is needing integration into other systems. Well, that knowledge, that specific capability is often bound within the company, and therefore you need to be on the market yourself and not through a partner, agent, or distributor. The other part is the opportunistic behavior. Well, how likely are they to cheat you? How much do you trust them? If they are very likely to cheat you, then you would also see the transaction costs go up. You need more tight contracts. You need more follow-up on them to make sure that they're not cheating. You could also take a look at the general corruption index of a country. How likely are they to be corrupt and therefore willing to cheat? So opportunistic behavior is how much do we trust? Then we move down into the external factors. And here we are doing a combination of our regular country analysis and market analysis. Sociocultural distance between home country and destination tells you something about how easily will we be able to work together, because country distance will always tell you something about complexities in communications. Country risk, or how likely is this country to do things towards you? Are they likely to, well, take over your company after you establish it and has become successful? Is the demand very uncertain? Is it a market which is at a low level right now, but expanding very heavily? Well, then it's a big uncertainty, which also leads me to the next one, the market size and the growth. One of the things that I often tell students to take a look at is the total numbers of the market size, not just the income per capita or even purchasing power parity of those numbers, because it only tells half the story. A country is grouped into different segments, and how big are the groups which are willing to procure your specific service or product. Direct and indirect trade barriers. This is one of the classical international ones. I'll do another video on trade barriers specifically to give you some tools to identify them. But in essence, if you're working within one of the free trade groups, say the EU, the Asian, the African, or the North American, well, it's okay to work. As soon as you cross the free trade groups, then you get trade barriers. But within the free trade groups, you have the technical trade barriers or the indirect trade barriers. It could, for example, be environmental barriers. It could be barriers related to how you can promote, how you can sell, and especially if you're working with food items, there is a ton of things that you need to dig deeper into before you choose your entry mode. Then we have the intensity of competition. Do we run into heavy competition, maybe even more heavy than we have in our local market. And how will they react? Will they lower prices to keep you out? Will they ignore you? Well, it has a big difference on the risk that you incur by going into this market, and therefore the establishment type, which makes sense. The last part is the number of relevant export intermediaries or import intermediaries, meaning are there people, companies, etc., which can take on our products and promote them, sell them to the local market. If not, well, then we have to do it ourselves. All right. So that's the components in a rather detailed way, but that doesn't give you the recommendation. So what we do is that we take each element, we score them from 0 to 9 with arguments. I cannot stress this enough, because without arguments, it's just a number which can be correct or wrong. And depending on your arguments, you can have a 9 score or you can have a 0 score. It's all down to your arguments. Calculate the sum. It'll be somewhere between -45 plus 50, and choose an entry mode based on that. Thank you for watching this small video. See you in the next one.